Hello, my name is Michael Souliard. I'm the Western Regional Sales Manager for the U.S. from SmartPTT by Alcom Plus. Today I will be talking about how SmartPTT can benefit K through 12 schools. So first I'll talk briefly about the core features of SmartPTT, the optional features, take you through some of the benefits, and then after that I will move into an actual demonstration of SmartPTT. Now the core features are going to include radio dispatch. As far as radio dispatch goes, that includes all calls, group calls, and individual radio calls. Also includes emergency management. Now, all of these types of calls can be integrated into the custom console, so you can give the user interface something more customized towards your needs. Now, we also support rules and alerts. With rules and alerts, when an event happens, SmartPTT can automatically respond to that based on the rules and alerts. Text messaging enables dispatchers and radios, as well as dispatcher to dispatcher text messaging. The event log is going to record everything that happens within the system. So when a status message is done, a text message is done, a job ticket, all that's being entered into the event log. The job ticketing helps prevent things from falling through the cracks, and telemetry can report, let's say when the bus stops, when that stop arm goes out, the lights come on, the door opens, all of that could be recorded in SmartPTT into the event log. As far as the optional features go, we have SCADA, which gives you the ability to remotely monitor and control equipment in the field. GPS tracking enables you to know where your buses are at any given moment. Voice recording, that's going to give you instant recall recording on the dispatch client. So if the dispatcher misses something someone said, they can go back and play back that message. On the radio server, it's a voice logging recorder. So you want to go back a month, 3 months, 6 months to pull audio. You can pull audio from the voice log. Telephone interconnect gives a radio the ability to make and receive telephone calls. The radio network bridging enables you to maybe connect two IP Site Connect systems together so you can create one larger IP Site Connect system. Indoor tracking can let you know where your security officers are throughout a school. So if they have an emergency, knowing where they are so you know where to send other officers to assist is going to help increase officer safety. The web client can show you somebody's GPS location through a PC's web browser, like a school bus or a security officer. Also lets you do texting with radios. The monitoring is a system monitoring, so it can report to you the health of your radio network infrastructure. So if a fan starts to go bad on a repeater, you'll get notified immediately. So rather than waiting for it to fail and ending up with a costly repair or an outage in your system, now you're able to schedule the maintenance so it doesn't bring down your system at inopportune times. Additionally, having that direct IP connection to the repeater helps eliminate points of failure like gateways and control stations that could otherwise cause disruptions in your radio system performance and your dispatch performance. So why do schools need SmartPTT? First would be student and employee safety. having the emergency and man down features in the radios, making sure students are dropped off at only authorized locations. Efficient communications. Drivers can request to talk to the dispatcher. So when the dispatcher is ready to talk to them, they can do so efficiently. Or using a mass notification, using all call to let everyone know about like a lockdown. Employee accountability. Make sure that the buses are following proper routes, doing stops only at authorized stops. Cost savings, ensure bus drivers take predetermined efficient routes, and it could also report on excessive idling. And then interoperability, if there's ever a situation on campus and the police come on site or the sheriff, you can actually interoperate your MOTOTRBO radio system to a public safety P25 system. So as mentioned, we'll benefit by enhancing student and employee safety. So for example, if an employee has an emergency, the orange button or the man down can be used to indicate back to the dispatcher that that employee is in distress. Additionally, using indoor or outdoor location positioning, the dispatcher will immediately know where you're located so they don't waste time trying to figure that out. Additionally, students should only be dropped off at authorized stops. Using the telemetry, like when the door opens, you could be notified so you could see, well, that opened at a non-authorized stop. For efficient communications, the dispatcher is able to talk to an individual radio, to a group of radios, say all your bus drivers all at once, or to security all at once, or to every radio all at once. Now, I'll show this feature in action here shortly when I do the demonstration, but you can actually program a button on the radio, or there's a more advanced microphone that has some programmable buttons on it, where the bus driver can just reach over, press a button, and it will send a text message to the dispatcher saying request to talk. So now the dispatcher knows who to call back at a time that's opportune for the dispatcher. Additionally, during an emergency, a dispatcher can communicate to every single radio with a single press of the button. So rather than getting the message out to transportation, then to security, then to maintenance, you just press all call and everyone's notified at once. So if you need to notify of a lockdown or active shooter situation, you do so with the press of a button. Employee accountability, as mentioned earlier, bus drivers should only be letting kids off at authorized stop. Additionally, excessive idling wastes gas and cause additional wear and tear on the vehicles. We have a start-stop report that would report on these items. Additionally, a lot of bus drivers may abuse the radio system, use foul language, accidentally sit on their microphone, keying up their radio, maybe playing music, whatever. So one, dispatcher is going to know who's doing it. They'll have a recording of it in the event log. So then corrective action can be taken to avoid that in the future. Additionally, SmartPTT has transmit interrupt, so you could take the channel over from that abuser and let them know, hey, Bob, quit keying up on the channel and tying it up. Cost savings, again, back to the excessive idling. You don't want that wasted gas. You don't want the wear and tear on the vehicle. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, with the telemetry, you can know when that stop arm goes out, when the flashing lights go on and that door opens. So if a child were to be injured while crossing the street, maybe the driver isn't paying attention, they're texting, they hit a child. They may say, oh, it's not my fault, the lights weren't on, the stop arm wasn't out. Well, you would have in that event log proof, hey, we first put out the stop arm, then the lights came on, then the door opened. We did everything right. The driver's at fault. That could potentially save the school from a very costly lawsuit. Finally would be interoperability. So when the police come on site, you may need interoperable communications. A police P25 radio is incompatible with a MOTOTRBO type radio. But through the use of SmartPTT, we can add a gateway and a P25 donor radio. And now when the police come on site, they could go to a talk around channel, and now they can have interoperable communications with your security officers or administrators. Now I would like to take you through a demonstration of SmartPTT. To show you some of the features and the benefits in action that we've been talking about. Before I do that, just want to give you our contact information. So I can be reached. My name is Michael Souliard again. I'm in charge of the blue states. So where you see blue, you would contact me at 786-923-1401. You can also email me at michael@smartptt.com. If you're in the green states, you would reach out to my colleague, John Crossley. He could be reached at 786-923-1404, and his email is john@smartptt.com. Finally is Ray Irigoyen, who's in charge of all the orange states and Canada. He could be reached at 786-923-1407 or at ray@smartptt.com. Now, here is the user interface of SmartPTT. On the right 2/3, you can see what we call the custom console. In the custom console, you can create your own look and feel to the dispatcher's interface. Now, this screen that I have created is a bit more detailed than what would typically be used. Instead, you may end up with a screen more simplified like this. Additionally, you might want to have your event log immediately underneath these icons, so that if you miss a call, you can just play it back, for example. Or I could just put it back and we'll go back to the normal view. Now here I have more detail because there's various features that I want to be able to illustrate to you. The first thing I want to point out is the all call, which is this icon here. Generally, before you do an all call, you first want to get people's attention. Now, you may want to just at a press of a button, have a tone go out followed by, lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. Let people know there's an emergency. You could do that by the press of a button, or you could just do it as a tone notification. Followed by, here is my important message to send to everybody. So that is an all call. Doesn't matter if you're on the security talk group, the transportation talk group, maintenance and operations. When you do an all call, that message gets to everybody. Additionally, that has priority over just a normal conversation as well. The next level of communications is to a talk group. So you could have security, you could have transportation. If I want to key up and talk to transportation, now I'm talking to all the bus drivers. You can go to maintenance and operations as well, or if you want, you can key up and talk to an individual radio. Okay. Generally, you're not going to have individual radio icons on your custom console. I just do it to show the ability. Instead, you might want to just have a dial keypad. Here I can enter 170, up pops Ray. Or I can go to this icon at the bottom right, and it switches it from a dial keypad to an alphanumeric list, at which point I can choose Michael and maybe call Michael. Another thing you'll notice here is it says Michael Souliard on this icon, and it's green. Well, Sam's icon, Anna's, and Ray's, they're all gray. That's because my radio is turned on, everyone else's radio's turned off. If Ray turned on his radio, after about 20 seconds, his icon would turn green because his radio's turned on and it's registered in the system. Now, before I get into some of the individual radio functions, there's a few more things I want to show you. We mentioned about interoperability. If you look at this yellow icon, this is my cross-patching. If I click on that, I can select a predetermined or pre-programmed cross-patch. So if I need to initiate that on the fly, it's already created, I just select it and enable it. Or I can go in and create a new one. But this is going to create essentially a conference call between whomever I put into that cross-patch. So if I create one between security and police, when somebody on security keys up their radio, everyone on security will hear it, dispatch will hear it, and the police radios will also hear it. Likewise, if the police respond to that call and key up, everyone on that police channel will hear, dispatch will hear, and the security talk group will hear. It's a conference call. This next icon is a multi-select. And here I can say, let's do security, and let's do Michael as well. Now, a multi-select is just dispatch out. So if I transmit to security and police will both hear me, but if security responds to a multi-select, only security and dispatch will hear, police will not hear. Now you'll also notice these double arrows throughout the theme of the user interface. That means there's additional options available. In the case of a talk group, it's rather limited. I could do a text message, I could do audio controls. In the case of an individual radio, you can see there's a lot more functionality available. Now, before I go to those functions, I want to mention the request to talk feature. One of the common pain points that I see for school dispatchers is they're pulled in many different directions. You have parents calling, trying to figure out where their child is. You have bus drivers trying to communicate to the dispatcher. You might have somebody standing in front of them, asking them questions. They're pulled in many different directions. So one of the things SmartPTT can do to help is we can help make it more orderly. So we can program a button on the front panel of the radio, or there's a microphone that has some programmable buttons. You just reach over to the microphone, press that button, and it sends a text message to the dispatcher. If you look on the right in this incoming events, you see it says Michael Souliard request to talk, or RTT. So now the dispatcher knows Michael wants to talk. So maybe the dispatcher is on the phone with somebody, they can't talk, okay, a minute later, it's all done. Well, they can come to this entry, double click, and it pulls up this call window. Now, in that call window, I could just click on this PTT and say, hey, Michael, this is dispatch. What did you need? Or better yet, you can get their attention. So we have this call alert icon that when I press it, rings the radio as if it were a telephone. So it gets the driver's attention, letting them know dispatch is ready to talk to them. They can key up, hey, dispatch, Johnny got onto my bus instead of his normal bus. Let the parents know. And then the dispatcher can talk back and coordinate a pickup location for Johnny with the bus driver and the parents. Now on this screen though, you can see it's giving me my name, gives my picture. It says my radio is online because I mentioned earlier about registration. Well, when you register, it says, okay, here I am, I'm online. It says where in the radio system, control station 1 in this case. It says free. I can also press another button and have it be on site. Or based upon my GPS location, I can have it say I'm in the bus yard automatically without the dispatcher pressing a button. Or when I leave the bus yard, it can go en route. When I get to maybe Washington Elementary, it now updates to Washington Elementary, all based upon location without the dispatcher doing anything, or without the dispatcher or the driver doing anything for that matter. It gives GPS coordinates. I have my indoor location below it. I have a brief history of what's been going on with that unit. I showed you the call alert. If they don't respond to my calls, I could see, are they even available in the radio system? And I can click on that icon, the radio check icon, and it came back right up above there saying radio is available, control station 1. So I know the radio's in the RF coverage area. So maybe the driver got off the bus. Or if it came back in red saying the radio is unavailable, well, maybe that driver drove outside of the RF coverage range. Now, before I talk about this next icon, the remote monitoring icon with the headset, I want to talk a little bit about emergency. So you can add like a foot switch to a bus, and when they press that foot switch, it activates an emergency in the radio. For like your security officers, they could use the orange button on top of the radio, or the security can also use man down. So if that radio tilts too far for too long, or is completely motionless for too long, it's going to let the dispatch, well, one, it's first going to notify that user, hey, write the radio or start moving, or I'm going to send the emergency. If after X number of seconds it doesn't get corrected, the radio is going to automatically press the orange button. So you can see that gets your attention. If dispatcher's in the next room talking to somebody, that happens, they know come running in because there's an emergency. They know immediately who's in trouble. It tells you there down at the bottom, Michael Souliard's in trouble. It also brought up my location. In this case, it's my indoor location, but it could also just be your GPS location. So now I know who's in trouble and where are they at, but I still need to know what's the issue. Okay, so you can program the radio that when the driver hits that foot pedal or presses and hold it, however you program it, that program that radio to go into a hot mic condition. So that radio is keying up automatically just because they press that emergency button. Now, you know, you're able to listen in on the background. Do you hear fighting on the bus? Or maybe the driver's yelling, hey, child's choking, I need an ambulance. You now are able to gain better awareness as to what the emergency is and how to respond. You don't want to wait 5 minutes getting there to find out you need an ambulance or you need the police. You want to know right now. SmartPTT and MOTOTRBO help you gain that awareness so you can respond more appropriately and more quickly. You know, I mentioned about the hot mic being able to be automatically done in the radio. You can also manually trigger that here in SmartPTT. So when I click on this little headset icon, you're going to see this PTT button go green, and you'll see it go green up here because my radio is then transmitting. So let me press that icon, and now you can see my PTT button is green because it's receiving, and you're seeing sound on the sound bar. So I could tell dispatcher, help, I've fallen and I can't get up, or whatever the case may be. Now, if a radio is ever compromised, maybe there's a situation at the school, maybe a classroom's taken hostage, and there's a radio in that room. You don't want the hostage taker being able to listen in on communications relative to responding to that situation. So at that point, I can kill that radio. I can block it. So now the radio does not receive audio. The user, they cannot key up on the radio, but the dispatcher can still eavesdrop on the background of that radio. The dispatcher can still see its location even when it's blocked. Now later, if you need to unblock that radio for any reason, you just simply come here and click on the unblock radio. Now let me go ahead and clear the emergency that we triggered earlier by pressing the exit emergency mode. And we return to normal operation. Next item to show is a deferred action. If you need to get somebody a message who doesn't come on shift for a couple more hours, well, at that point, I can click on this deferred action. I'll say, report to the principal's office when you get on shift. And I'll also do it as a text message. Report to the principal's office. Now, my radio is already turned on and registered. So as soon as I hit save, the voice message is going to go out. But otherwise, if they didn't turn on if they weren't on, when they turn on their radio in a couple of hours and it registers in the system, at that point, SmartPTT looks, okay, Michael just registered. Oh, hey, I've got a deferred action for you. Here's your messages. So I'm going to hit save, and that voice will immediately be transmitted. Report to the principal's office when you get on shift. So there's your voice message, and when the blue goes away, the text message will go. So I can hit OK, and I see report to the principal's office, and then I can hit OK again to reply, and I can just go OK and send, and now it goes back to the dispatcher saying OK. I can also manually trigger a text message from this text box at the bottom. Here I'll just put in test and send that out. And there it goes. So the next functions here are related to location. So here I can tell it find on map. So if I don't have that unit centered, I can tell it find on map. And it brings me up with my last known location. And you can just see it jumped a little bit there because it just updated it. So when I do that, it says bring you up front and center and request their current coordinates. I could tell it to remove it from the map. I could tell it to show me an address instead of just GPS coordinates. You can see there's this reddish pinkish area on the map. That is a geofence. So maybe this is the bus yard. And when they're in the bus yard, I can update the status to show in yard. When they leave, I can change their status to en route and so forth, all based upon the rules and events, or rules and alerts, I should say. You could see if I hover my mouse, it says home. If I hover it here, it says guard shack. Here, it says northwest fence. So if I run a start-stop report later, instead of just showing me GPS coordinates or an address, it can show a point of interest. So now I understand, oh, that's stop 1, that's stop 2, that's Washington Elementary. That's why they were there for 20 minutes and only at that place for a minute. I can run a track animation to see where that radio has been over the course of a day. So rather than shadowing a driver to check on their efficiency, I can just run a start-stop report, or I believe it's called a radio movement report, to see their location throughout the course of the day. I can also tell it to find on an indoor map. So here you can have indoor locations as well. Recently, there was a school where they had one of their maintenance techs was electrocuted, and no one knew immediately that he was in distress. But they also had no idea where he was located. Working indoors, so GPS wouldn't work either. So using the indoor location, if there's ever anyone in distress, you can find their location indoors as well as outdoors. Here you can also see where beacon P200-4, there's a red line around it. That's because that is a geofence. Just like that reddish pink area on the map here, that's essentially doing the same thing on our indoor. So maybe that's a hazardous work area. Maybe there's dangerous equipment there. And if somebody goes in there, you want to notify them. They need to either get out or use a particular safety protocol that can notify them. We also support job ticketing. So from a maintenance perspective, you needed to assign something, let's say bus 120, change oil, and I want to assign that to Michael. I can trigger that as a job ticket, and I hit OK, and it goes out to my radio. Starts ringing my radio, and now I press OK, and I can see, okay, bus 120, change oil. I could press OK, tell them it's accepted or rejected. In this case, I'm going to accept it. Then once I finish what it is I'm working on and I go to start that task, I can tell them I've started it. Then maybe as I'm working on it, I find, I don't have the right oil filter. I can then tell them it's delayed or delayed parts. Then when I get back to it, I could tell them it's resumed, or I can just go ahead and complete out the task. And you can see down at the bottom, it tells you when it was sent, accepted, started, delayed, completed, etc. But everything we've done has been recorded here in the event log. So the job tickets we just did are all here. The text messages, the deferred action. If I double click, report to the principal's office when you get on shift. It's an instant recall recording of what was said. I can also right click and tell it to download the audio file or open that in File Explorer. Here's the emergency, here's a status change, here's the request to talk. Everything is being recorded. I can also create an incident number. So if I want, let me just come here and I'll put incident 1, 2, 3, 4. Tab out of there, and now you can see incident 1, 2, 3, 4 is in this notes column. So if I want to later, I can just filter this down to incident 1, 2, 3, 4, and it filters out just down to incident 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can go ahead and clear that filter, and it's back to the normal view. So that is everything I would like to show you. I'm going to bring back up our contact information slide once again. If you would like for us to host a personal one-on-one webinar for you and your team, we would be very happy if you reached out to us to schedule that webinar. Again, I can be reached. My name is Michael Souliard, so if you're in one of the blue states, Hawaii is such a nice state, we had to put it on there twice. But I can be reached at 786-923-1401 or michael@smartptt.com. For the eastern states, the green states here, you'll reach out to John Crossley at 786-923-1404 or john@smartptt.com. Finally, if you're in the orange states or in Canada, you'll reach out to my colleague Ray Irigoyen at 786-923-1407 or at ray@smartptt.com. So you can also reach out to your Motorola two-way radio dealer to arrange that webinar, or if you need a quote as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch our video. Have a great day.